Welcome to Harley on the Headlines. You know, I really hope your Thanksgiving was a great one, full of family and good food and gratitude for all of the things that we have. Now, I know we have a lot of people in Australia who check this out, and I appreciate it more than you know. Australia doesn't have Thanksgiving as a holiday because they didn't have Pilgrims and Plymouth Rock and the Native Americans who befriended the Europeans who were coming to a new world for a new life. 250 years, folks, not since the first Thanksgiving, but since the founding of the nation many years after that. Now, think about this for a second, because we usually don't. Columbus sailed the ocean blue in what? Right, we remember as kids, 1492. That's what started it all off. Of course, he made 4 trips to what was referred to as the New World over a 12-year period. Then 2 years later, in 1506, Columbus died. That was before Magellan sailed around the world. It was before a lot of things. There is a lot of time between 1492 and 1776. 284 years. That's longer than what we are celebrating this year with America's 250th birthday coming up in July. We don't stop to think about all the living and the exploration and the building and the dreaming that went on for 284 years leading up to the day when colonists decided to pick a fight with their king and strike off on their own with a new nation. We had been America since the later days of Columbus, named so after Amerigo Vespucci, a map maker who realized that what lay before him was a landmass worthy of charting. History. It's always good to put into perspective. Don't know why I went there, except I did. Oh, well. What do we have today? President Trump has invited the families of the 2 West Virginia National Guard members who were shot to the White House. He said, I have spoken to both families. They're devastated. Of course they are. Army Specialist Sarah Beckstrom died of her injuries. Air Force Staff Sergeant Andrew Wolf clings to life. He may never recover. It was a .357. Quite a bullet. The story of Rahmanullah Lakhanwal, the Afghan national who shot them, is an interesting one. He was among the Afghanis who worked with the CIA to track down high-value Taliban targets during the war in Afghanistan. That means he was loyal to the U.S. and what we were doing there. He put his life on the line every day because he was a target of the Taliban for retribution, like every other Afghani who helped the coalition forces. It was important for us to get them out as well. When the U.S. pulled out, as ham-fisted and ugly and poorly thought out and amateurish as that Biden retreat and withdrawal was, of course he needed to get out. His life wouldn't have been worth monkey spit if he stayed. Officials today say it's all Joe Biden's fault because he wasn't properly vetted. I usually agree with the administration on most things, but on this, what you are hearing is highly political. If he had been properly vetted, he would have been welcomed with open arms, obviously, because at that time, he was one of the good guys, no doubt about that. He didn't spend months or years helping get some of his own countrymen tracked, captured, and killed, and then come to the U.S. with an intent of doing jihad years later. Come on. Something happened after he got here. That is what should be the focus. How was he turned from an American ally to an Islamist enemy who was moved to drive 3,000 miles from Bellingham, Washington, all the way to D.C. to shoot a couple of the first soldiers he encountered patrolling the streets to keep the peace? What happened to him? Was Washington State's infamous far-left politics to blame? Did he come under the spell of a jihadist Islamist leader? Did he, for want of a better term, simply fall in with the wrong crowd after finding life more difficult than expected in the land of his dreams? All of those things may be part of the story, as yet untold. It is a story that will eventually be told but you'll have to look through the political films to understand it. And I'm not just talking about a conservative film. Both sides in the fractious place that is Amerigo Vespucci's New World has its own lens. Few actually look with clarity these days. President Trump says peace talks between the U.S. and the Ukrainian delegations went along well over the weekend. Secretary of State Marco Rubio said, yes, they were productive, but more work needs to be done. That is Diplo speak, for we are not there yet. We, the U.S., may be finding common ground with Ukraine, but what of Russia? And so it goes slowly. Here's one of those, we didn't think of this. You know, it's a new research report. Nitrous oxide is an effective treatment for major depression. Nitrous oxide is known as laughing gas. You breathe it in, you feel pretty good. Don't know how long laughing gas makes you less depressed, but duh. I mean, come on. The researchers say it works fast. Again, duh. And short-term use of it can make a difference. Check with your doctor before trying to rustle up a tank of your own. Lastly, how in the Sam Hill did a coyote wind up on a second-story ledge of a parking garage next to the Luminary Hotel in Fort Myers? The answer is evidently he managed to get there on his own. I say that because he managed to find his way down by himself. It's kind of weird, though. Most likely, they think the animal wandered into the garage and, in trying to leave or avoid humans, took a little hop over the lip of one of those parking garage openings and instead of falling to the ground, wound up on the ledge. The hotel and the Denison parking garage are in downtown Fort Myers, Florida, and you just don't see coyotes strolling around in cities very often. Now, do you? So thanks for joining us today. I appreciate it. By the way, some of the folks in the office have started a Patreon account, yeah, which will allow any who are so moved to make a little contribution in support of the show. $1 a month would help defray some of the expense. Thank you, always from the bottom of my pea-picking heart. Yes, I have picked peas, by the way, but just enough for dinner. Please hit those like, subscribe, and follow buttons. It does make a difference. I'm Harley Carnes. We'll do it again.